What's up, guys? Today on Sports Spectrum, Alex Anzalone, Detroit Lions linebacker. And you know what took place last year with those Detroit Lions in that playoff run, almost making it to the Super Bowl. What a season that they had. Lions fans are super excited about this upcoming season. And Alex Anzalone is a big part of that Lions defense. He's also got a fantastic story and some moments that took place in 2023 last season, having a child, going through some tough times with his family over in Israel, and his faith tested in many ways. This is a chance to learn about Alex Anzalone's journey with the Lord. It's coming up in just a moment here on Sports Spectrum. First, I want to tell you about our friends at Compassion International. You can go to the website, compassion.com/sports spectrum, and you'll see a list of children waiting to be released from poverty, waiting to be sponsored in Jesus' name. That's what Compassion is about, releasing kids from poverty in Jesus' name. They do great work. I got to travel with Compassion International to the Dominican Republic back in late 2022 when I saw it firsthand, the work that Compassion International does and what these child sponsorship programs really do for these kids and their families in these countries all around the world, these terrible conditions that so many of these children are in, and a chance for you and I to sponsor a kid and release them from poverty. Go to compassion.com/sports spectrum. Your sponsorship will provide food, education, medical care, vocational training, and it's all done in the name of Jesus. It's giving kids a chance, giving kids hope. Go to compassion.com/sports spectrum right now and sponsor a child in Jesus' name. It's great to have Alex Anzalone from the Detroit Lions here today on Sports Spectrum. Hey, Alex, what's going on?
How's it going, man? Not much.
Good.
Just enjoying the off season right now.
Yeah, off season is always short, I feel like, and then the next thing you know, it's another season for all of us to watch you guys and cheer you on. Before we get to football, and we will talk some football, I do want to start with faith. I think it's important to start with probably the most important thing in all of our lives, which is the Lord. Can you tell me a little bit about your faith and your journey to Christ and maybe the Lord in the life of Alex Anzalone?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question. I grew up in a Catholic family, Italian Catholic family. Went to CCD, got confirmed, the First Holy Communion, all of that, and just went through all that. But I really didn't find my faith personally until college, and looking back on it, I think that's what really where my foundation was, but at the same time, where I got that, personal relationship with God and Jesus Christ, and how I grew myself as a grown man, in college. And I dealt with some adversities, and that always grew me closer. So, yeah, it's kind of where my foundation kind of is, and where it developed. But as I now grow into a family and have a wife, and it's a different animal. So spiritually, that is, and also everything else.
Well, it takes on a different meaning, I think, when you have kids of your own, when you start talking about, Father, God the Father, and then his Son, and you talk about us being like God's children. And maybe that's hard to kind of fully understand. And then you become a parent yourself, and you probably have a little bit more of a glimpse and a little bit more clarity, and maybe even a little bit more of a connection with God when you become a dad yourself.
1000%. Yeah, you kind of understand the love that God had for us to send His Son. And
Yeah.
without kids, it's hard to really understand that and feel it, and you feel it in your gut, and that type of love, and it's definitely something that's indescribable, and it's awesome to grow my Christian family.
Well, what you mentioned too is very similar to my story. I grew up in a Romano's my last name, Italian home, Catholic home, going to church, making my CCD, doing the whole confirmation, first communion, baptized as a baby. But I never really had a personal relationship of my own either with Christ until I was in my late 20s. And so I just wonder for you, what was that moment like? If you can pinpoint a specific moment, or maybe it was just a you know, a I guess a progression, if you will, when you were in college. You went to Florida, and I know college can be an interesting time for a young person trying to figure out life, and obviously you trying to figure out football and all the you mentioned adversity that you've walked through. But is there a moment that you can pinpoint or a time frame that you can start to say, okay, that's when I started to understand God maybe a little bit differently?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think there's a time frame and also a few moments. I'd say a couple moments that really, resonate in my mind. But I started going to Bible study and chapel and like getting involved in that way and kind of interested in learning a different way as opposed to what I grew up in um and started really understanding the relational aspect of who God is and what he's here for and what we're here for him. And that's really kind of that grew my interest a little bit more. And, I started actually dating my wife, Lindsay, who, she played soccer at Florida too. So, and she grew up in a Southern Baptist home. And, she went to a Christian school and Catholic school all through. So she has that faith background as well. So, we grew closer together. But yeah, as I mentioned, I had, some big injuries in college, shoulder surgeries and, I was a big recruit coming in, and it felt, my first 2 years didn't necessarily go as how I planned it. And I just remember one time after like my second or third shoulder surgery, and I was sitting in a car with Lindsay by Lake Alice, which is on University of Florida's campus, and I was just like asking God and her like, why is this not why is this happening to me, but like just trying to like fathom all of this and why am I being let down and why is there so much disappointment and just trying to figure it out. And I just remember her handing me something that she had written down, for a few years. I don't know what she used it for, but it's what is it? Corinthians 4:13 or Philippians 4.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Philippians
You know,
4:13.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and that's something that definitely, it's just a moment in time that definitely you start to question things in your own personal life because growing up you don't have like a lot of people have different journeys in life and mine just happened to be in this is the first time something like that I truly am passionate and care for football and it's being taken away from me, so it was challenging.
Yeah. It's the highs and the lows of life, right? And you wrote a first person account for the Lions last year and shared candidly about some of the struggles that you walked through with Lindsay, your wife, and talking openly about going through, a miscarriage together and then not soon after welcoming the birth of a new baby. And so walking us through these moments, I'm curious for you, what has it been like to fully trust when you hear that word, trusting God's plan in both the happy moments and the ones that are sad or struggling, like you mentioned, even during your time in college with the injuries.
Yeah, it's definitely obviously challenging emotionally and spiritually as well, but I think that all the moments that we kind of went through, and nothing really prepares you for a miscarriage. It's really like nothing that you can really describe. And I think just the faith foundation that we had within our relationship, um, and also just the trust we had in God and having God is definitely helped us get through that. It's that dark time, and um, it's indescribable, but that pain is something that you have to deal with, and you have to grieve and go through all that process, and it definitely grows closer to God as opposed to grow away.
Yeah, we're talking to Alex Anzalone here on Sports Spectrum from the Detroit Lions. How does that faith transfer to football, if at all, in terms of how you look at football from a perspective of a job, from a career, and then even how you live your faith out as a football player, if that's even
Yeah,
possible for you?
yeah, it's definitely hard. It's kind of it's like a challenge every day. You try to live, a Christian life in the locker room, and you do. But when you get on the field, you're hitting and running around tackling, and things are being said on the field that aren't so friendly, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for me. Every game pretty much. it's hard to get in that mindset, and, it's like, what would Jesus do in this moment? That, uh
That's hard though, right? You're trying to nail someone and take them down and prevent him from scoring, and then is your mind going to focus to, oh, let me help the guy up and tell him I'll pray for him?
Right,
That's
exactly.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. But, no, it's definitely, I feel like the environment you're in and the guys you're around and, who you surround yourself with definitely helps your walk in your faith. And in Detroit, in our facility, we have a lot of great guys, a lot of Christian men that, um, that live the right way. And we all hold each other accountable. And, we all go to Bible study and chapel before games. And, there's God cares about what we care about. And it's not always about praying to win the game, but, there are other things to pray for and care about too.
Yeah, because last year, if all of your prayers, when I put air quotes around them, were answered, you would have won the Super Bowl. But you
Right.
didn't. But that doesn't mean that God can't still work in the life of Alex Anzalone and so many other guys in that locker room when you look at how great of a season that was. And it was an awesome season for the Lions. Let me look back a little bit to last year. How long does it take for you as a player to move forward and not live in sort of what if mode after the season ends when all the success that you guys had? I mean, 14 wins is incredible when you look at what you were able to accomplish, but obviously it doesn't end the way you want it to end.
Yeah, it's hard, especially losing that NFC Championship kind of like we did. It's we kind of let it slip through our fingers, and that's probably the toughest way to lose. And uh, I feel like there's an emotional part of it, and then that you kind of have to like almost like grieve the season in a way, and kind of just go through that process of processing all the emotions and you know get all those feelings out of you. But then, you always look back on it logically and be like, look what we could have done. And we could use this motivation going forward. But yeah, it's definitely a unique process of, getting over it and trying to move on to the page, but still remember what you could have had just for motivation purposes.
And yet, what a season, right? Like that
Right.
had to be one of the most fun seasons I would imagine that you've ever been a part of.
100%. Yeah, it's so cool just to do that for a city that has been like craving for a winner forever. And we were able to do that last year and hopefully keep it going moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of wins on the field, and a big win off the field was when your parents make it back from Israel amidst all of the unrest that was taking place. And you talked about that a little bit. Can you tell us in that first person account, and certainly in other areas of being interviewed? I think right before that first person account, if I'm not mistaken now. But tell us what happened and what going through that period was like for you personally. Just obviously, it's your parents and your family, but also from a faith perspective, because sometimes our faith isn't tested until moments like that.
Yeah, yeah. It was nuts. My parents were just going on a 10-day vacation tour of all the sites in Israel and with their church group. And they had a big group and it all planned out, organized. And they had no travel advisories or anything like that, and they had it planned for a year that they really wanted to do it. And so they went over there, and I I think they were there for like 3 or so days, and then they were in Jerusalem. And obviously October, what was it, October 7th happened. And, you're just hearing the reports, and at first from my perspective, I go on Twitter a little bit, and I was just looking at what exactly is going on. And you get a lot of misinformation. And I'll call my parents, and they would downplay it and not really say exactly what was going on. But then I think that Sunday after a game we had. I forget which game it was, but I remember like seeing all the videos and what exactly is going on, and start to panic inside. And it's a life or death situation. And yeah, it's hard to just be like, oh, God has it handled, and it'll be figured out. And it's a credit to my parents that I would call, and my brothers would call, and they would downplay and be like, everything's okay, we're gonna be all right. And they kept telling me after the fact, they told me that they just had a like an inner peace when they were in the situation, which I was like, looking back on it, I'm like, how do you have inner peace like during the moment? But then looking back on it, I'm thinking, maybe there was, they were in Jerusalem, and they were in the same place where Jesus walked, and they're where he walked on Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
so yeah, it was definitely a tough experience, but they eventually made it out on their original flight plan on a commercial airline. So yeah, it was definitely very, very scary.
Well, thank God, obviously, that everything worked out. But it's funny because it's in those moments, right? It feels like our faith doesn't fully get activated a lot of times until we literally have no control left on
Right.
circumstances, right?
100%. Yeah, and I had no control over this. I don't have any connections in Israel. I had some, congressmen and, military people reaching out to me. It's crazy your network. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that you kind of like, you know what, mom and dad, like we're going to be praying for you and, you know, we have to leave this up to God, and they were in the same boat, and no panic or worry will ever really help.
Yeah. And you're in a specific, well, not specific, but a unique role, I guess, with a platform to where you're able to have somebody stick a microphone in your face after a game or during that week. I think it was actually a week leading up to the game, and tell this story and know that a lot of people, which is what happened, a lot of people saw it. It was picked up on all the big networks, and that doesn't make it be okay that everything's just going to happen, but at least it gets it out, like you said, to certain people to check and make sure. At least you had some you were able to have that platform, I guess, to maybe help the situation along a little bit more if needed.
Yeah,
Thankfully, it wasn't needed, but I'm sure you were probably amazed. Maybe you weren't, but the platform, when things get, the rubber meets the road, it can reach a lot of people.
100%. And yeah, that was kind of the give and take with it is like, okay, if I do say something or I do say, that they're there, will they become a target? And that was
Right.
definitely a thought in my mind. But yeah, it's definitely cool to see, thousands and thousands and thousands of prayers that, they received. And I believe in the power of prayer. And, it's definitely, the pros outweighed the cons. And yeah, it was cool to see, it being picked up in the media and in a good way.
Yeah, certainly. What was your favorite moment from last season?
That's a good question. I feel like that first playoff win was like so special. It was so it was a home game. We were playing the Rams. We were playing Matthew Stafford back at Ford Field,
Yep.
Jared Goff's former team, Brad Holmes' former team. And it was definitely a game that, kind of I'll always remember, but just something that it was just cool to like seal your legacy in something just because it's never been done there before or it hasn't been done in so long. So yeah, that was probably my favorite game.
Yeah, I'm looking at your date of birth. You weren't even born the last time that the
Right.
Lions had won a playoff game, up until the moment when you were a part of a team that won the playoff game. So I could see why that must feel really, really fun to be a part of, because you know that obviously you hope you win a lot more playoff games, a
Right.
lot more sooner than the last time. But just to know, like you said, those fans, right? I mean, I have a lot of Lions fans in my life. Some guys I go to church with. My brother is a Lions fan. Like I always said, if you're a Lions fan, you're really a Lions fan because you're
Right.
not picking them because they've won 18 Super Bowls in the past 30 years or whatever, Something
Yeah.
unique about that fan base.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're diehard, and it's a football town, it's a football city, and Michigan loves their football, but yeah, unfortunately, they haven't been getting a good product with the Lions, and we've definitely have turned those tables, and like I said, we're gonna keep moving forward and keep building off of what we did this year and the past few years.
Your family's grown, as you mentioned. You welcomed a newborn baby. What's life like right now, going from one to two kids? Because I hear it suddenly becomes it's double the work, if you will. And I've only have one child, but I got brothers who have multiple amounts of kids, and they say it's the one to two that's the biggest jump, not the two to like three or three to four.
Right.
It's the one to two. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, well, that's good to hear because I definitely want three. So I'll pass that information off to my wife. She'll be encouraged.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but no, yeah, one to two is definitely hard. It's definitely not easy. You're used to just handling, you could like, oh, okay, I have the one, and you go do whatever you need to do. But now it's not easy just to dump two on you, and I'm gonna go, especially this early. She's 3 months old, so uh,
Hmm.
it's definitely early to, just get up and go. But yeah, it's we love it, but at the same time, it has its challenges.
Yeah, no doubt. But it gets a little bit better. I'll just say that. You know this because you have a
Right.
little bit of an older child, 3-year-old, right?
Yeah.
3 months to 3 years, it's like night and day on the difference in terms of how they are. And it's for you and I, 3 years ago is really quick, but in the terms of the development, it's just night and day.
100%. And also, I'll tell you this, I wouldn't recommend, moving from Michigan to Florida, putting the toddler in a new bedroom, the baby in the nursery, getting all the furniture set up all in a few weeks, and also, add in potty training, adding a new school. It's not a great recipe for success, but we're hanging on over here.
It's a season. That's what I hear a lot in my sermons from my pastor. It's a season of life. You won't
Right.
have this season of life forever, so you make the best of it right now.
100%. Yeah, we're making, and I think with the second two, you're always, I feel like the first you were trying to like, okay, what's the next milestone? What's the next milestone? The second, I'm like, I don't even care. Just give me the snuggles.
That's right. Just snuggles. Now,
Yeah.
it's got to be difficult, though. We've talked to a lot of guys on this show. Just the difficulty to be all in on football, but not let it consume you to the point where you neglect your family or even neglect God. That's got to be a tough tension to kind of wrestle with because you want to be all in on football as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think the like best situation or example or microcosm of that is when we lost the NFC Championship. I came home and uh, obviously visibly and internally distraught inside. And my 3-year-old is up and at it, and he's like, "Dad, why are you upset?" And he was like, do you care that we lost?" He's like, "No." And that's kind of just the basic, like it honestly makes it easy to mentally and emotionally move forward from football because you have to do so much of that throughout a football season. But yeah, it's definitely hard to be completely all in all the time on football. But that's just the life we chose and what God blessed us with. And at the end of the day, our family is most. It's what is most important compared to football. And football is just something that we love and that I play and that's what I do for work and how I you know bring in an income. So that's really kind of how you have to look at it, but you have to put your best foot forward. And some things I have to sacrifice in different situations.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you saw the Netflix documentary, the quarterbacks documentary on Netflix, and
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was featured, and there was this moment. The Vikings had such a good year. This is 2022, and they lose to the Giants, and it's such a devastating loss. It's at home, and they followed Kirk in the car with his wife driving home, and then pulling up all the way to the driveway, and then he goes in, and there's his son, and he's kind of like what you just described. Hey, Dad, you okay? Like, let's go play.
Right.
Or, it's time for bed. Can you tuck me in? And then they show Kirk, at his bedside praying with him and just reading or whatever he was doing with his son. And you remember, oh yeah, this guy just lost, a really difficult football game. But let's put this in perspective. If I have a
Mhm.
bad day at work and I come home to my daughter, she isn't going to care about that bad day at work. She's going to care about, is dad home and can we hang out and
Right.
can we spend time together? I don't know, man. It just puts it in perspective because from a fan perspective, we don't see that. Like we just think, oh, the Lions lost and the Niners won, and then fast forward 2 weeks later, the Niners lose and the Chiefs win, and we just think that's it. It's the end of the world as fans, and then you forget like these guys are working and have families, and it just puts it in perspective.
100%. Yeah, that Kirk Cousins, was a quarterback the documentary when he was doing. I think it was a bedtime prayer. That I almost caught a tear going down my face. That was definitely, it was cool to see and definitely admirable from my perspective, and it made me a big fan of him, and that whole series made me a big fan of him. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely something that's like you have to just not just like snap out of it and move on, but you have to move on from it pretty quickly. And it puts kids put everything into perspective. And it definitely, for me, it's because I do care so much about football and winning and losing. And it's not my everything, but at the same time, I care about it a lot. And, it honestly helps me move forward and move past all that. And, because my number one favorite job is being a dad.
Yeah. It's my favorite job too. So we got that in common for sure, Alex. I've never been a football player, but I've been a dad for 20 years, and we have that in common. So it's a lot of fun. I can tell you. I can tell you that. Let's close with this. What's when you think about it, could be right now at this moment, or it could just be over the past few years or the past few months. When you think about lessons that the Lord teaches, that God teaches us, what do you think is the big lesson right now that He's teaching you in your life?
Uh, Probably, mm, be patient. Um, I think that with children and a 3-year-old toddler who's going through all these transitions, it's definitely, um, you know, you have to be patient.
Absolutely.
I think he definitely wants me to draw closer to him and all this commotion and even this off season we have construction going on. We have, kids and a new or 3-month old and doctor's appointments and all these different things going on. But at the same time, like Lindsay and I's focus needs to go to him. And I think that's a lesson that we're definitely, um, learning in these moments in this season, like you mentioned, that we're going through. And, it's definitely great reminders to, be a better Christian and have a better walk. And that's something that we strive to do every day.
He is Alex Anzalone from the Detroit Lions. Hey, thanks, man. Great to chat with you. Great to meet you. Congrats on all the success, and certainly the most important thing, congrats on becoming a dad for the second time. And we'll be rooting for you next year, and appreciate you coming on the show. And hopefully, we'll talk again down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you.
And many thanks to Alex Anzalone for joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. What a fantastic guy and a great conversation, and just appreciate him being a part of Sports Spectrum and saying yes to share his story here on our show. We wish him nothing but the best, him and the Lions, of course, in 2024. And we hope to have him back on sometime in the future and hear how the Lord's working in his life moving forward as a dad, as a husband, and certainly as a follower of Jesus. We thank you for tuning in as well. You can check out our website, sportspectrum.com, which has all of our content, articles, devotionals, podcasts. This podcast right now is available at our website, sportspectrum.com. And we're super excited because we got some things in the works that are coming your way very soon with regards to the website, in regards to a brand new Sports Spectrum app. I'll have more information about that down the road. But in the meantime, get acclimated with our website. Tons of free resources and content all available right there at sportspectrum.com. And plus, you can sign up for our weekly Sports Spectrum newsletter. It's a great way to stay in touch with all that we have going on at Sports Spectrum. Click the newsletter icon at the top and simply put in your email, and you will receive our Sports Spectrum weekly newsletter delivered to your email inbox, chock full of stories and podcasts, devotionals, everything centered around the intersection of sports and faith. And of course, whatever app you're listening to this podcast on, whether it's Apple or Spotify or Amazon or wherever it might be, iHeartMedia, click that follow or subscribe button. That way you never miss any more episodes of the conversations that we're having here on Sports Spectrum, like today's with Alex Anzalone from the Detroit Lions. Click that follow or that subscribe button, and you're good to go for the Sports Spectrum podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. We love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon right here on Sports Spectrum. Hey, thanks for watching Sports Spectrum here on YouTube. You can click our next video, or you can check out our website, sportspectrum.com.